This is going to be a change of pace. I mean, this is like a buffet, many different cultural cuisines on the same table. I, like the previous speaker, believe that people learn from experience. But in fact, I don't think they learn from experience just because you put them in one. They have to be well-designed and well-mentored experiences. So for me, experiential learning is not liberal in the sense that, wow, just empower the learner and turn them loose. It has always a form of teaching, although not always the form of teaching we currently recognize. And it's not conservative in the sense that we just tell people everything. Now, I want to talk about a pedagogy that is actually already in existence. It just isn't in school. The type of well-mentored, well-designed, problem-based learning through experience exists out of school all the time. In fact, in a pedagogical system that I think is in competition with schools. And it is organized very differently than how we organize learning in school. And the way that I want to get at this is through video games, although that's where we're going to start. That's not where we're going to finish. Now, a video game is just a problem space. You have to have a set of problems to solve, and then the game designer is the teacher. The game designer is going to try to teach you through the experiences you're having with, in this case, Metal Gear Solid, you're having an experience through that surrogate body you're going to control. And but the point is that you're going to be in this experience, but you're going to have to solve specific problems in it. That's what it means to win the game. Now, there's something very interesting in this picture from this game that is easy to overlook. You can see in the right side there is a little screen, green screen, that is a sort of map. And for people who are not gamers, it is actually easy to miss that because we tend to take the experience you see, the game, the hero, as the main thing. But that little device in the corner is crucial. I'm going to argue that that is the central core of what I'm going to call problem-based experiential learning of the type that I want to push. Now, what is that little thing up there? Well, it's a type of map, but it's actually a diagram of how you are supposed to pay attention to the experience you're having. Right? This is a very famous video game character named Solid Snake. By the way, since we've had politics of various things, he, if you played these games, has very definitive political views of the United States that I recommend. And but you notice you, as Solid Snake, are just staring down a corridor in a room that looks like an everyday room. But you have a specific problem to solve within the rules of the game. This is a stealth game. You're supposed to solve a lot of problems, but not kill people and not get killed. And therefore, in order to solve those problems, which you know lucidly what they are because the designer has made it clear what you're supposed to do, you have got to look at the world in a certain way. You have got to see the world in terms of affordances for solving the particular problems you have. And that little map is the beginning of them sketching out to you how should you look at the world when you've got this set of goals. The little red dots is for enemies. The cones of light are where they're looking. The white dot is you. That's your cone of light. The spaces and objects are drawn as rectangles and cubes because you're supposed to look at the environment as places to hide. Where is gaze going? Where is visibility? Where is not visibility? And then you're supposed to, before you walk down that corridor, you're supposed to make a plan. By the way, the game teaches that very well because if you don't consider the rules of the game and you walk down that corridor without a plan, you play for 11 seconds. All right, so the game is teaching you how to look at experience. It is showing you, it is mentoring that experience and making it well-designed for specific problem solving. Now, I want to show how this gets carried very far in a particular type of pedagogy that is now typical in the gaming world. And I'm going to use an example of a game that's been around a long time and is, still around, but not as it's still got millions of players, but not as popular as it once was, namely World of Warcraft. And a lot has been written about this game. It's a massive multiplayer game, so you're playing it with a lot of other people. And the unit of play is not you as an individual, but a 5-party team. And the problems in the game are set up in such a way that no problem could be solved by one skill set. So you have to bring 5 players, but each player must have different skill sets. You don't bring 5 healing players. You bring, so this is what in business they call a cross-functional team. Everybody on the team each person has to have individual expertise at a very deep level, but they also must know how to understand the individual expertise of the other players, each of the other players, so they can meld with them as a team. They've got to know what they do so they can heal them at the right time or support them at the right time. So deep, intensive knowledge, but also knowledge of what each other person does in a network. So you playing as a cross-functional team, and you come to understand that. So that's the unit of play. Now, this is just a slide from the game, and this is what typically you would think of as a game. There's the characters running around in what looks like a world. And that's how you start. If you're going to try to start and reach, aficionado levels in this game, you're going to start like that, and you're going to see, and it's going to look like a game. But very soon, remember that little box for Metal Gear Solid? Little boxes begin to fill the screen. You get this stuff. Now, something very weird has happened here. You notice the game disappeared? That the boxes of text and graphs, like that little window, the little map, which was meant to tell you how to view the world, how to view it for affordances for problem solving, is beginning to eat the game. Now, what is happening here? Something very interesting is happening, and that's because for players who begin to get a passion, as we just heard, a passion for solving these problems. They want to be an aficionado in World of Warcraft. They want to be an exemplary team member. They begin to say, as I experience that world over and over again, I have to theorize it. I have to say, what's the model here? What is the theory behind this? How do the variables interact so that I can put them together to solve problems? And they then they leave the game, and they go into all sorts of interest-driven internet sites where they discuss the game. They do what's called theory crafting. They discuss the statistical underpinnings of the game. They begin to modify the game by doing their own programming. And what you see on here are mods. They are things made by players to facilitate the team-based play. Right? They're based on the player outside the game, working with other aficionados, people with interest and passion, and saying, how can I understand this experience theoretically so that I drive decision-making and problem-solving as I do it? And I'll just give you one example of what these mods are because it's interesting because it solves the leading problem in the social sciences. In the social sciences, the big problem with the free rider problem, right? That if you have a team, what's going to stop, Joe Schmo from doing nothing? But as the other 4 people work hard, he's going to get credit, right? That's the free rider problem. So remember, each team here, each character's got a very different skill set. And one of the things up here is a damage meter. That is a meter that shows you, based on the statistical theories the players have developed for the game, that for each character type, that each skill set, what are you doing and how does it compare to optimal performance for that skill set in relation to the other players? And any time there's a suspicion that there's a free rider, somebody slaps that mod up on the thing and you can see how you're doing, how you're contributing, and get it in alignment. Now, all of that is like that. It is based on theories of what the problem set is, how to solve them, and what tools you need. And as the aficionado plays more, and as they go out of the game into these distributed learning and teaching spaces, these internet sites where they're theorizing and stuff, they then come back with things they've made that slap their theory on the experience. See, this is the growth from concreteness to abstraction. School very often starts with the theory, the abstraction, the generalities, and moves to experience. Notice this gave you experiences. The game designer mentored them enough so you knew what to pay attention to. And then the community takes off, and they begin to build tools so that you can apply your theory in practice. And now theory is eating the experience. And people are actually as much playing the game by looking at this information and making decisions as they would otherwise do. Now, the importance of this is to see that the real learning and teaching going on here is not just the game. It's the game plus all of these sites around it where people theorize it, build for it, innovate, and then go back into the game and build their expertise up and up and up. And when you look at the structure of that social set of interactions around the game, not in the game, plenty of social interactions in the game too, but when you go to these theory crafting sites or modding sites or fan-driven interest sites, you will find out that they're replete with teaching. And if you need a tutorial on something, there'll be one available that a fan has made that's completely didactic. You want a didactic lecture, you got it. You want a participatory, you got it. You want a coach to come in the game with you, you got it. In other words, they have developed as a learning base all sorts of teaching and learning resources and distributed them across multiple internet sites and some physical communities through LAN parties and such stuff. And you are constantly circulating in that teaching and learning community. Sometimes you're teaching, sometimes you're learning, and then you're going back and theorizing the practice that you're doing and getting better and better. And eventually, with these mods, remaking the game free of charge for the company who makes it. Right? In fact, at the highest levels in this, you cannot play the game unless you bring these mods with you and know how to read them. Now, this is a pedagogy that exists, which I will call a distributed teaching and learning system, and it doesn't require it doesn't exist just for games. A game just happens to be a well-mentored, well-designed design problem space that can then energize passion to build and innovate around that so that the experience can be theorized and transformed. All you need is an interesting problem space. Now, the problem space of World of Warcraft is probably not one you find very uplifting from an educational point of view, but here is Civilization, where you build a civilization from the earliest days to its nuclear age and beyond, operating on hundreds of variables, right? And this, too, has a huge distributed teaching and learning system community around it that has modded it, recreated it, transformed it, theoretically analyzed it, and given the player all sorts of tools to reflect on what they're doing in practice and on practice. And as I suggested earlier today, I would like to suggest a political statement, certainly for the United States, that nobody should be president or mayor that hasn't won this game at least once, right? And I can assure you we'd have no politicians left in the United States if we had that test. And here is the game that's made at the University of Wisconsin in a group I helped start. You heard references this morning to epistemic games. This is from David Schaefer, the founder of epistemic games. And it's organized the same way. Kids replan the city of Madison or wherever they are with the tools of professional urban planners. They have to handle all of it in the game. You see there, they're beginning to build tools that will overlie their theory as they practice. They're beginning to do that thing. And then after they've done this and got an urban plan, they have to present it to a real urban planner in the appropriate language with the appropriate graphs and stuff. And of course, that's going to be pretty easy because they've already built the way they see the city on the city, right, and the representational things. This is an educational game, but SimCity is one of the best-selling games in history that did this. And then conclude with this, that this is Fold It. Some guys had the idea, look, scientists spend millions of dollars trying to find the right fold for proteins. The chemicals in any protein, if it's large enough, one can fold into billions of shapes. And only one of them is the one that will have the effect in your body, so they have to try to figure out how is this damn thing folded when they can't see it. And they do it through supercomputers, churning through tons of data. And they said, well, what if we turn this into this kind of distributed teaching and learning space? You have a little game where people can fold the protein in various ways, and if any little fold hits the low energy state, which is the one you're looking for, it'll turn blue. Can they, by pattern recognition, find the right fold for the whole protein, which is very complicated? And the players did the typical thing. The ones with passion formed guilds and teams, set up internet sites. These are people with no degrees. So to get into chemistry, to do stuff, to share, build on each other's stuff. And in a contest against the scientists' computers, they were trying to solve 10 unknown proteins. They won 7 of the 10 slots. The players have published 2 articles in Nature, no degrees here. This is part of the pro-am movement. If you have a degree, you should worry and worry big. And a year and a half ago, a guild discovered the right fold for the protein that causes AIDS, which had eluded science for 20 years. So this distributed teaching and learning system, which is game-based, but really requires just using the principles of gaming, that is good problems, passion fueling, distributed teaching and learning, it's already out in the world. And it's speaking to real problems, and boy, we got a lot of those. So the issue is not whether we could do this or not, it's done. The issue is, could we imagine doing it in the public sphere of schools, where issues of equity and access are crucial if we're to recreate citizenship? Okay, thank you.